Courtney. Welcome to Thursday Thrive. This is a series featuring people who have overcome adversity. If you want to know more about what it means to thrive or to see more stories, then check us out at edmondco.co. I hope you enjoy this story.
He looked up at me and he goes, Tam, after all of this, these 3 hours, after all of this, I thought you were going to say you murdered somebody. And I go, but I did. Honestly, I went to a different school every year until I was in the 9th grade. That's how much we moved around. Some of it was because my mom was escaping a bad relationship, or when one boyfriend that she had didn't have rent, so we came home last day of school and she had the car packed when we went camping. And after like 2 weeks was our regular camping time. I was in the 5th grade. And I'm like, oh, we're staying, and we just picked up and went to another campsite. We camped the whole summer. I didn't know until I was older that we camped the entire summer because he didn't have rent. So we were just constantly moving around all my childhood. The first abuse, gosh, I think I was in the 4th grade, and it was just one of the men decided he'd just explore around my body, and it didn't get more than that with him, but that was more than it should be. And a couple years after that, there was a couple sexual incidences with a boyfriend, and that was really tough because he was also one of the physical abusers. I actually have a scar on my stomach and a scar down my arm from him. My mom asked me to leave the home. I was 16, and I did, and I moved in with my boyfriend at the time, whom I thought I really, really loved. I'm sure I did, you know, teenage love. But we moved in together, and the principal of our high school caught wind that I wasn't living at home anymore, and he pulled me into his office. And I was really afraid he was going to make me go back. Then he found out that I was staying with people, and he just didn't want to get into that really. And but he did get Child Protective Services involved on a speaker call, and got my mom on the phone. And I told them about all the abuses right there, and my mom was listening, and she got really, really angry. And I think I would too. I look back now and I would think, oh gosh, if I found out that that was happening to my daughter, I wouldn't know how to respond. I'd feel so bad. I don't know. She wasn't angry necessarily at the abusers. I think she was angry that I said something. Like I said, I was living with my boyfriend, and it wasn't long after, just a few months, I got the flu, and it wouldn't go away. And I thought, uh-oh. My friends thought, uh-oh, at the same time. So we got an appointment at a Planned Parenthood to get a pregnancy test. And they called me the next day and said, oh, yeah, you're pregnant. So, you know, they took the when's your last period, all that kind of stuff, and figured out when to make an appointment. Wasn't a question what we were going to do. We were definitely going to get rid of this baby, and made the appointment. We knew by the time I got to the appointment, I would be about 11 weeks pregnant. The following year, I got the flu again, and we made our second appointment, and I had the second abortion. And that, not that the first one didn't affect me, because it did, but I was really stoic. I played it really brave, like, hey, they said it was cool. I feel good, I did the right thing, but gosh, you know, I remember the anesthesiologist saying, right after he put the sleepy drug in my IV, that, hey, just start counting back from 10, and before you know it, it will all be over. And what they don't tell you is actually that's when it all begins. Life has never been the same since that moment. Shortly after that, my boyfriend and I broke up, and stayed connected, stayed friends, still friends to this day, actually. But I moved away after that, and when I was around 19, I got a job actually in Knoxville, Tennessee. I went from Southern California to Knoxville, Tennessee. Long story. It's in the book. Long story, but I met a gentleman who was 15 years older than me, and he was kind of like a father figure, and I didn't realize it then, but boy, that was great, because I didn't have my dad growing up, and I had these abusive men in my mom's life, so I didn't have a good dad. So I meet this guy, and of course, I'm 19, he's 34, he's probably thinking, jackpot, got this little teen girl, and he's very well known in the community, great, seemingly really good guy, and I married him. 5 days after we were married, my uncle was right, this man just snapped hard. And did some real horrible things to me. Locked me in our apartment and beat on me a lot, and drank a lot. Wasn't himself. After, a couple of those moments are a blur, but at one point he did have me backed up against the door, and he put the gun and up to me, and he's like, I can just kill you and then kill me and just get this all over with. And I thought he was going to. His eyes, he was foaming at his mouth, and his eyes were kind of like looking through me. My mom called me out of the blue when we were on the phone during that time, and he was passed out drunk, and she said, Tam, this is what I want you to do. And she grew up with abusive boyfriends and stuff, so she knew how this game worked. She said, this is what I want you to do. It's the second piece of best advice she ever gave me. She said, when he wakes up, you take the blame for everything. And I said, Mom, I didn't do anything. I don't know what happened. And she goes, it doesn't matter. You dote on him. You treat him like a king. You treat him like royalty. You get him feeling like, okay, at least she knows where her place is. She'll, submit to me or whatever. And she goes, and you get him well enough where he goes to work. Okay? And she said, you drive him, you take the car, and then you go down to the Greyhound bus station, and there's a ticket waiting for you to get out to Southern California. And I thought, my mom's finally protecting me. After all of my childhood, she came to save me. So that's what I did. He woke up that next morning, and I said, hey, I'm really sorry for the last few days, because it was 3 days long. I'm sorry. And he's like, good. I said, would you like me to call a counselor? Maybe I can do some counseling. Maybe we can do some counseling together. He's like, yeah, that's a good idea. I think you should do that, And I was like, that's great. And I take him to work. I go down to the bus station, and I get on the bus, and I go out to Southern California. When we walked in, the phone was ringing, and it was my mom. And my uncle gave the phone to me, and she goes, Tam. And she sounded a little frantic. And I was like, Mama, what's wrong? And she goes, Steve shot himself. And I said, what? I didn't think he was dead. And she goes, yeah, he's gone. And I was like, he's dead? And she said, yes, he shot himself in his heart. And I kept asking, are you sure he's dead? And at that moment, I realized why I was asking. I wanted him to be dead, because I was so afraid of him. And I remember at that moment feeling, who am I? Who have I become that I actually am afraid that he's not dead? That was in June of, I don't even know when now, June of 90 actually, June of 1990. A few weeks later I got a job. So I'm like, all right, I'm 19, I have no home, I'm a widow, and I have no money, I have no car, I need to get a job. And I got a job, and there was a guy there. I know, I just think Tam needs another guy in her life. And that's what I thought, and he was really trying to get friendly, but not like friendly. He was just like, there's something about this girl, she needs something, I know it. And he was married, had a beautiful family, and he just wanted to share the Lord with me. And I thought, no, I don't want anything to do with the opposite sex. I don't care who you are, what your intentions are. You all are bad. You're a bad man. But he was relentless. He wouldn't let up. So I finally agreed to go to church, and it was a little church in Glendora, California. And I walked in, and I saw this super duper cute tan boy, and fast forward, he's like totally my husband now, but he was super cute, and I was just like, ah. And it was crazy because it had only been a month, and I wasn't a believer yet. But about a month after that, I had a really beautiful coming to Jesus moment. It was a really awesome day for me. And a few weeks after that, Brent, my husband, and I started dating, and then a year later we were married. Brent and I started dating, and he was really cute in his approach toward me, because he basically was born a Christian. He was just a good kid, and so he meets me, and I'm just 2 months into my relationship with the Lord, and I'm just baby new. I remember one day he drove me to work, and I was really stressed out about something that was going to happen at work, and he goes, well, why don't you just pray about it? And I'm like, okay. And he goes, just go ahead, you can pray right now. I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting in this lowered mini truck, don't even ask. So I'm sitting there, and I just quietly pray to myself, and I think he was waiting for me to like pray out loud, and I'm like, oh no, I'm not there yet. I'm only 2 months old. I need to step up to that. So we get married, and we get married in 91, and we decide around 1993 that we want to start having a family. And we get pregnant fairly soon after deciding that, and I got to the 11th week of my pregnancy, and that's when this new journey started, the other tough layer of my life. Fast forward to delivery day, we actually had a really tough pregnancy, and we know now it was because of that second botched abortion. I went into labor with Cassidy. I was 26 weeks pregnant, and I remember thinking the whole time, God's going to take her as a punishment. That's exactly what he's going to do, and I deserve it. And so for the rest of the pregnancy, I was just so afraid. Ends up, he doesn't take her. She comes a month early, and I knew I still ran the risk of losing my baby girl. She was born, 5 pounds, scored really good, healthy. But when she was born, I didn't want to look at her. I didn't want to hear her. I didn't want to hold her. I didn't want to smell her. I didn't want to fall in love with this baby, because I still believed God was going to take her from me. Fast forward 5 months, and Cass is 5 months old, and I love her by now. And she was hard not to love, very hard not to love. A little harder to love now. She's rolling around our apartment floor, just she and I are home, and I'm walking down the hallway, and just on a merry-old way, I don't know where I was going, but my knees buckle, and I fall hard on the floor, like face down, like body goes boom. And I'm like, what? You know, am I having a heart attack? Did I eat something wrong? You know, but on my way down, I know exactly what's happening. And God was like, all right, I've had it. I'm buckling your knees. I'm forcing you to stop and deal with this right now. And I felt so strongly he wanted me to tell Brent about the abortions. And I fought and I yelled. I screamed at God in my little tiny hallway apartment. And I'm crying so hard. I can't breathe. There's snot all over my face. I am out of control because I know that I'm losing control. That night, we go to bed. Brent and I go to bed. Cassidy's sleeping in her crib, and I decide I'm going to tell him, and it takes 3 hours to tell him. I rock back and forth. I'm crying. I'm trying to get out of it. I'm praying for Jesus to come back and just save the whole world, and I don't have to say anything, and everything will be good. I'll be golden. I'm not kidding. This is how my mind works. I take a deep breath, and I just go, when I was 16, I had an abortion. He doesn't say anything, not a word. And I said, that's not all. The following year, I had another abortion. And he sits up a little bit, and he takes a really long, deep breath, but still says nothing. And I swear, nothing is more frightening than not saying anything, because my mind is going a million miles an hour. Like, he's gonna get up, he's gonna pack his bags, he's gonna pack Cassidy's bag, and he's gonna leave me, because why wouldn't he? And he didn't. And he looked up at me and he goes, Tam, after all of this, these 3 hours, after all of this, I thought you were going to say you murdered somebody. And I go, but I did. And then he cried, because then he got it. He understood why that was so hard. I tell you, my big thing in life is that confession brings freedom. And I tasted freedom for the very first time in my life on that night. And there was no going back. The next day I called up, I had 4 best girlfriends. I'm like, we need to meet. I need to tell you something, because it felt so good to finally say something. I didn't feel like I was 1,000 pounds anymore. I'm in a really cool season of my life. I have 2 adult children. My daughter is going to be 22 in a few weeks. My son is 19, and my husband and I will be married 25 years in August. So I released a book about a year ago called And Now I Choose. Let's just leave it at that. And Now I Choose. And that has afforded me a lot of opportunities to share my story on a larger scale. And so that is also affording me to be able to go speak and travel around the country a bit. So yeah, so I spend my days sharing my life with people. I spend a lot of my days helping people. I get lots of emails and messages and stuff all the time. You know, the more you share your story, you also have to be prepared on hearing others' stories and mildly carrying that weight with them, but just enough to kind of help them jump some hurdles. So I spend a lot of my time doing that too, and I think that's a gift. I'm very, very honored that I get to be a part of people's lives in that way. My children. those are my blessings. And because, like I said, God could have easily not allowed me to have children, but he did. And the blessing that they received my confession just as beautifully as their father did. And that was probably the most real life, face-to-face example of God's love I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, that was Jesus' flesh, those moments. Each of those moments where I confessed to my family. Biggest blessing is that God knew that I could journey all of that, come out on the other side, and help people. Book of James is very clear that you go through these trials so that you can be a comfort to others. God knew. He knew I was going to get through it. And you know what? In some kind of odd, twisted way, maybe it sounds like it, but I feel pretty dang honored that God knew he and I could do that. That's an honor that he would allow me to do that, so now I get to do this. I get to go speak to men and women about this. I get to help people break chains, dysfunctional behaviors, to help them have their own revelations and their own coming to freedom moment. I get to do that now, and that is such a blessing, and it's a gift, and I do not take it for granted one bit. I don't take it lightly.